So I have a bunch of these Philco Predicta TVs, but this is the one I started with. And a while ago I restored this cabinet and made it really nice. Now I have a working chassis for this that I've kind of botched together, but I'd like to restore a really nice chassis to go into this cabinet. So that's what I would like to work on this video. Now this is going to be a multi-part video because restoring one of these chassis takes quite a lot of time. But this will be part one. I'm not entirely sure how many parts it'll take for me to get it done. Okay, on the bench today, this is a 10L43 Philco Predicta 17-inch chassis. Now, this one's in pretty gross condition. You can see it looks like it had a dog or some sort of pet. There's a lot of hair, a lot of dust, a lot of things that have been taken apart. There's no tubes. But I'm going to restore this chassis. I have a lot of Philco TVs. I have a lot of this model, and this one, even though it looks pretty bad, it's pretty much all there. It's got a flyback, it's got the transformer. It looks like it's a good candidate to restore. So I'm going to start by getting this main board out, which on a Philco Predicta, we have all of these wires around the outside, and they're wire wrapped. There's a few different ways you can get those out. They make a tool. This is the tool. Looks like this. Goes down on the post, and you can actually twist the wire off. That works sometimes. Sometimes it's just as easy to just kind of start with your pliers or your hands and just kind of unwind the wire yourself. You can kind of peel it off. Sometimes a little heat helps. The other thing is the board is staked in place. They have these grounding stakes. They're around the outside in a few places. Like there's one right here on the other side of this can. Those are soldered. You have to desolder those and straighten them out in order to get the board out. And you gotta make sure when you put the board back in, you get all of those soldered correctly, because they ground out each individual section of the circuit board. And if you don't get them in place, you're going to have problems. Now, you do have access on the bottom of this board. You actually have quite a bit. If you wanted to, and I've seen it done, and I've done it a little bit myself, you can work around this board in the chassis and get everything you need pretty much to get everything changed out. But there are areas that are really hard to get to, that are kind of blocked in there. But I want to make this one nice. I want this to actually look nice, not just function. So I'm going to remove the board. I'm going to clean the board. I'm going to clean the chassis. It's going to look really nice because I have an absolutely perfect cabinet that's restored. I put a lot of time into that. I like to put a chassis like this into instead of one that's just kind of botched together. Anyways, so when I come back, hopefully I'll have made some progress on getting this board removed. All right. You can tell by the look of my bench that yeah, this is a lot of work to do. I got this board out. Now there's one or two wires still stuck to it, but they're not attached to the chassis. It's all out now. To get this out is a real challenge. You got all these pins that fold over onto these stakes, and then along the edges you have these pieces these fold over the sides of the circuit board. Let's see if I can adjust it. Anyways, so these fold over. There's one there. There's one back here. There's one over here. You have to bend those off of the circuit board. And then you have to twist off. I found the easiest way is just twist the wires off. Now, what are you going to do to rewire this when it goes back together? I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that. Well, I have 7 or 8 Philco Predictas of this particular chassis. So I'll just go grab another one of these chassis off the shelf and then match up the wires if I have any questions. I think I have an idea of where pretty much everything's going to go. Some of this wiring is going to get changed out anyways because it's pretty rotten. But I also have the Philco service guide here that has the information in it, along with this photo fax for this chassis. And you just work your way through it. Now, if you don't have that, which I did this as well, I took a lot of before photographs of every single wire. You can never take too many photographs. So I just took tons and tons and tons of photographs. Now, you can label each and every wire. You can assign it like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on around this. You can make a little template up and then label each wire. And then that way, when you put the wires back on, you know they go in the same exact areas. There's different ways to approach it. I'm just fortunate that I have a few other chassis, so I'm just going to basically, when I got back together, I'm just going to match up my work to make sure that I did it correctly, and we will go from there. Now the flyback, the wax on this one is completely fallen apart. Now, this one looks pretty bad. It's missing everything on it, but I've had those that worked. If it does work, I could put new coating on it because the chunk's actually missing. I'm not entirely sure how I'll do that yet. There's a few different ways I can go about, but I'm going to consider that. So anyways, you can tell by my workbench I got a lot of cleaning up to do. I'm going to clean that up before I even start on anything else. All right, so we're going to try a tip that I learned from watching B. Anderson TV's channel. That's to use some simple green to clean circuit boards. And I've got this really filthy, disgusting Predicta board here. The underside's not too bad. The top's really horrible. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to use some compressed air, blow some of this hair and other stuff off of the board, and then I'm going to give it a soak with some simple green, and then try washing it off with this kitchen sink and a fine painter's brush, and try to get the loose dirt and stuff off, and we'll see what kind of difference that makes. I've never used this before, so I'm real curious. So I figured I'd get a good close-up of this board because this is a really filthy board. So you can see here before how disgusting this is. So I'll bring you guys back here in a bit once I get this thing cleaned up, and we will see if this cleans up or if it doesn't. Wow, that simple green works really, really good. Now, I wish my camera was a little better and you could see, but even the old capacitors, even the paper ones, look really nice. The board cleaned up great, everything. I mean, this almost looks like a restored board. Now, what I did is I sprayed it down with simple green 2 or 3 times, used a soft bristle brush to go over some of the dirtier areas. I avoided spraying water directly down any of the cans, and then just washed it in my kitchen sink. And when I was done, I put it out in the sun and let it dry. And it's California, it's about 80 some degrees today, so I let it sit outside for about a half an hour in the sun and dried, and that made a big difference. Now, if I was expecting this to go back into a working TV today, I'd be nervous that there'd still be water trapped in stuff, like the controls back here and inside the cans and stuff like that. So I wouldn't recommend this. But this board's going to be restored over a period of days and weeks until I get this back together. So I'll give it plenty of time to dry. Now, the other thing to mention is Bob doesn't know whether or not it was a coincidence, but when he washed his complete chassis, his transformer, he left on the chassis and he sprayed it down. And then shortly after he got his set running, his transformer died. Now, he did everything right. He didn't spray water directly into it. He baked his set in an oven with the door open using like the convection setting for a period of time. He let it sit and dry for, I think, weeks, and everything like you should. So it's unlikely that water got in there. But just because of that, I'm going to be extremely careful with getting this water near any of my transformers when I'm doing this work. So that's one thing I'm a little paranoid, so I'll be careful about that. But for cleaning the board, it's really does a nice job. I'm really impressed with it. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this is going to be a multi-part video because otherwise I wouldn't get this done in time. It would be several more weeks before I'd get this posted, and it would be hours long video which no one would ever watch. So I'm going to cut it here, and in the next video we're going to work on replacing the components. I have all new networks for this board, new capacitors, and we'll do the resistors, do all that, and we'll work on cleaning the rest of the chassis, and we'll start putting this back together and then go from there. But anyways, thank you so much. I really appreciate you watching this channel. And I also have some radio videos that will be coming up here shortly, and I'll be kind of maybe going back and forth between Predicta stuff and radio stuff, and then I might have some other TV content as well. But thank you again, and I'll see you soon. So I'm at work, but I couldn't refuse the opportunity to take a chance and pick up a pre-war console radio. I think it's a 1930 Stuart Warner. Anyways, that'll be in an upcoming video.